Chloe escaped an infinite cycle of death and rebirth. In one broken future, Hinata was murdered, Tempest collapsed, and the world slid into war. If this project is worth your time, subscribing is the free way to help cover the AI rendering and editing costs that keep the story coming. But for now, that future has been broken. The Demon Lords have gathered in Tempest, and the next storm is political. I returned home the day our musical exchange program came to a close. Venom and the rest of the security detail were unharmed. Baton and his orchestra were safe too. In fact, everyone made it back alive. So I gave the kids who had been under Diablo's protection a week off. They were not physically injured, but better safe than sorry. The whole experience had shown them the difference between training and real battle, and it had definitely taken the edge off their usual bubbly personalities. There might have been some mental trauma involved, so I told them to rest. As for Luminus and Leon, we all agreed to hold a meeting soon. Choosing the location was a problem, but eventually we settled on Rimuru, the capital of Tempest. Luminus's empire of Lubelius would have its hands full rebuilding for a while, and Leon's domain of El Dorado was apparently dealing with its own heavy issues and was not in much shape to accept foreign VIPs. Tempest, for the moment, was in the clear, and I had no reason not to make the offer. Besides, we already had 2 Demon Lords living here anyway. I thought of the winged Ramirez and the freeloader Dino as I gave the go-ahead. Luminus and Leon arrived in Rimuru the next day, giving me exactly 0 time to relax. Leon had stopped home to prepare first, but this still felt needlessly quick. They wanted to compare stories right away, and I had questions of my own, so I indulged them. We met in my most ornate reception hall, Luminus, Leon, and me. Since there would be 3 Demon Lords in the room, I figured it was only appropriate to show off a little. Only the people directly involved in the Lubelius incident were invited. I wanted to hear everyone's story first, and then I would decide how much to reveal about Chloe. Given the circumstances, we had a tacit agreement to keep all this secret from the rank and file of our forces. On my side, that meant Xion, Diablo, and Veldora. I had really wanted to leave Veldora out of it. He would get bored halfway through, I just knew it, so I would have preferred he stay in his room. But for some reason, he was adamant.
How could I not participate in this?
When he was that fired up, I had little choice but to reluctantly agree. Xion, meanwhile, should have been recuperating from what were clearly serious injuries, but she was right as rain in almost no time. Ultra-speed regeneration really is no joke. Once again, I was reminded how downright scary it was. So there I was, standing side by side with Diablo, with Xion right behind me. Hinata sat next to Luminus, with Luis and Gunther behind them. Behind Leon stood 2 knights, Arlos and Claude, both bolt upright, and after that there was Chloe, the star of the show. She was back in her usual young form, but I figured we ought to treat her as a grown-up. I had a long rectangular conference table set up in the chamber, with 6 padded seats arranged around it. Veldora and I sat together, directly facing Hinata and Luminus, while Leon and Chloe took the end seats. It was time to begin this impromptu Demon Lord summit. First, I had Chloe explain what had happened in Lubelius, with Hinata adding comments where needed. Under normal circumstances, the story would have been unbelievable. But after the metaphysical experience I had just gone through, I was completely willing to accept it. Chloe finished her explanation quietly. And so, thanks to Hinata and Rimuru's aid, I managed to escape from my infinite cycle of death and rebirth. Once Chloe wrapped things up, everyone looked ready to respond while gauging one another. Veldora, never one to read a room, kicked off the debate.
So the hero who sealed me away back then was...
That was not particularly important, was it? I certainly did not think so. But Hinata answered before I could steer things back.
That was me. Now we're tied 1-to-1, aren't we? Isn't it nice getting to taste defeat for a change?
What?
Oh, do you have a problem with that? Because I'd be happy to play a tiebreaker right now.
Very well. If you insist, I shall tap upon my true forces.
Well, this sure was not getting us anywhere. The normally cool as a cucumber Hinata always turned extra petty around Veldora. I cut in before the whole thing could get worse. Okay, that's enough. They could tackle that question when they were alone.
It is vital that you show that foolish dragon some discipline, Hinata. Should you challenge him, be sure to inform me. I will gladly provide assistance.
Quit fanning the flames, Luminus. Out loud, I changed the subject. Look, all's well that ends well, okay? But what I'm wondering about right now is, well, I got killed, didn't I? So was someone from the Empire behind that? To me, this was a vital question. The Empire was acting as suspicious as ever. If that was about to turn into open hostility, we needed to be on guard. Chloe answered, probably, and I think the same person killed Hinata as well. The Empire had a pretty capable fighter on its side, so maybe you all took them on at once or something. I didn't see the light that cut through Hinata, though. Well, if someone out there had managed to kill Hinata, then killing me before I became a Demon Lord did not seem outrageous. I've evolved into a Demon Lord, I said, but that's no reason to let my guard down. It might have been a different line of events, but if someone had killed me once, of course I was going to watch out for them. If we wound up facing off against the Empire, I would have to be careful. Chloe continued, that's a good idea. The Empire's a lot more dangerous than you think, Rimuru. Veldora went berserk after you were killed, but the Empire repelled him too. During that Veldora battle, Hinata was murdered, and then Chloe was sent back in time. The memories of what happened after Hinata's murder existed inside Chronoa's mind, but only in fragments. Chances were the enraged Veldora and Chronoa clashed with each other, and then the Empire made its move in the midst of all that chaos. We had all seen what Chronoa could do, so simply joining a fight with her involved was pretty amazing already. It could be, and likely was, that the Empire's military power was far beyond what we had assumed. Luminus and Leon seemed to agree. We were all starting to see the Empire as a dangerous threat, but as the reception hall began to sink into gloom, Veldora veered off on another wild tangent.
I find it hard to believe I would simply go insane.
The reaction across the room was unanimous. Are you kidding me? Running his mouth in the middle of this weighty discussion like a golfer casually teeing up, well, it had to be Veldora.
Wait! Why are you looking at me like that? A gentleman like me would hardly lose his temper so catastrophically.
If I may, you definitely went on an extended rampage long ago, and it was easy to imagine you in that state. But maybe in that other line of events, the Empire killed me after I resurrected him, and that set him off in a violent rage. Honestly, that thought gave me some warm fuzzies. All right, I said, smiling a little as I calmed Veldora down. Let's leave it at that for now. The Empire was dangerous, we had concluded that much, so it was time to move on. Next came Chronoa's memories as far as Chloe could recall them. After the Empire defeated Veldora, the world plunged into a great war, East against West. The war dragged on, with the Eastern Empire holding the advantage, and in the middle of it, Milim made her move. My death must have antagonized her against the Empire, and she was not afraid to show it. That made Guy intervene, and once again the world faced Milim versus Guy, the worst possible matchup. Daggrel and Luminus also clashed on the battlefield, spreading the flames of war even further. At some point, Chronoa fought someone and lost her life. She had sped into battle and fought as far as her spirit could take her. All that remained was her will of destruction, so she cut down the great and powerful left and right. As a result, she did not remember who finally bested her. And only so many people have what it takes to beat Chronoa, huh? I wondered aloud. Luminus answered first.
Guy, I would imagine.
Leon agreed at once.
It could only be Guy.
I agreed with them. We did not know how the fight between Guy and Milim had turned out, but Guy really was the only person who seemed capable of killing Chronoa. Or maybe not. We had no idea what Guy's motive could have been. I asked the room. So what made Chronoa so supportive of me then? Despite what Chloe told us, I still did not see how Chronoa and I were connected. She was resurrected after I died. We never would have met each other, but clearly she had a thing for me. I may not be too quick on the uptake, but even I would notice that much. It was true from the very beginning, wasn't it? She even gave me a big hug and a kiss after I summoned her for Chloe. Why all that the first time, I had wondered, but I suppose Chronoa had her reasons. Chloe started to answer. Well, Chronoa's voice cut in through Chloe before she could finish. Because you saved me, Rimuru. In the future world, where all I did was rampage, you were the one who saved me. I'm sure of it. Chloe immediately protested. Hey, I was about to say that. Chronoa replied through her. Oh, let me at least tell him that much. I'm you as well, after all, so it's the same thing, isn't it? To the outside observer, it looked like Chloe had a particularly flashy multiple personality disorder. Apparently, Chronoa butted into conversations whenever Chloe let her guard down. I was sure they both had a lot to get used to. The two of them proceeded to take turns talking. According to Chloe's or Chronoa's memory, I apparently was not so dead in the future after all. The Empire defeated me, we were certain of that. But it looked like I managed to come back to life somehow. Neat, I guess. I could not speak for myself, but my faithful friend Raphael would never make a mistake. It sounded like Raphael took its time, but in the end it still found a way to keep me alive. By that point though, the world had changed profoundly. Veldora was gone. Tempest was in ruins. A massive war had erupted between East and West, and demon lords were waging bloody battles for supremacy over one another. In that situation, I could pretty easily imagine my own feelings. I am me, after all, and chances were I devoted myself to tracking down anyone who survived. Maybe I could not rescue everybody, but I could at least lend a hand to the people I was closely connected to. That was exactly what I did, and in the end I found Chloe and Chronoa. Chronoa's recollections were too fragmented to answer the bigger questions, but we had a grasp of the general flow. I ran into Chronoa and fought her on multiple occasions, and I was sure I managed to win her over again, but as Chronoa told me, the fate of the world was already sealed by then. Chronoa said, "As you all predicted, I fought against Guy. I don't remember the events leading up to that, but I'm positive Rimuru wasn't there. Then, just as I was about to die, Rimuru held me close, and the next thing I knew, I saw Rimuru and Chloe from the past. So Guy was there after all. That did not surprise me. The question was what exactly happened before Chronoa's death, but I presume that was where her journey back through time began. However, that still did not adequately explain how she arrived in Chloe's line of events. Maybe there was a chance I did something to engineer that? Had I evolved into a demon lord by that point?" Chronoa answered without hesitation. "Yep, and you were even more powerful than you are now." Hang on. Could she tell that just by looking at me? I like to think I was pretty strong already, but it was hard to believe Chronoa would misjudge someone's prowess. I suppose losing my closest friends drove me to do some pretty wild stuff. None of that had any bearing on me at the moment, but we did have the Empire to think about. Maybe I should look at it more optimistically. Like, I still had room to grow, that sort of thing. Regardless, if I was stronger than I was now, then Great Sage must have transformed into Raphael by that time. If so, I could totally imagine it doing something bizarre like transmitting the memories from Chronoa's spirit into young Chloe. Raphael offered no answer. Cannot deny it, huh? And now I felt I had a handle on what happened in the future. Trying to brighten the room, I said aloud, "Hey, all's well that ends well, right?"
That is a pretty casual approach to take.
"Oh, don't be that way," I replied, giving the sneering Hinata a gentle smile. "Chloe's just fine, as you can see, and Veldora has already been resurrected. All we have to do is keep an eye on those two, and we won't have to worry about them going berserk. So the only problem left to deal with is the Empire, isn't it?"
Indeed. If Dagril decides to attack me, I will take care of him. You saved Chloe for me. It is the least I can do to repay the favor.
Luminus and Chloe really did seem to get along. Now my stock with the Emperor was skyrocketing. I suppose this meant we could enjoy an even better relationship than before. Dagril's ambitions were one issue to tackle, but Luminus was willing to shoulder that burden without me even asking, promising she would keep the West peaceful. The Western nations were technically part of Luminus's domain. There were some skirmishes with Guy's forces in certain areas, but that was more a pastime for Guy than anything serious. Luminus must have decided that it was not worth obsessing over. Instead, Dagril was the bigger problem, and she had been watching for a while, wondering when hostilities with him might break out.
If we have fought in the future, there is a good chance he will take advantage of any moves the Empire makes.
I was not so sure. I pushed back gently. Yeah, but Dagrel's sons are living here in Tempest, don't forget. I doubt he would resort to force that readily.
Dagrel's sons. Is that true?
Sure is, they're training hard under Xion at the moment. Xion briskly interjected.
That they are. They have much left to learn, but they have started to earn their keep as of late. I have occasionally rewarded their efforts with some of my home cooking, and they cried tears of joy over it. I found it quite charming, I will add.
Tears of joy? I was not so sure. If a girl you have a crush on cooks for you, that would make anyone happy. But the cooking had to be edible. Still, if you could handle its appearance and texture, Xion's meals had become surprisingly consumable. If they were not complaining, I did not need to comment. Let's leave it at that. Hearing that Dagrel's sons were in Tempest made Luminus give me an astonished look, but it vanished in an instant. She recovers fast.
Then it is true, I suppose. Perhaps Dagrel was being coerced by another. But then this is the future, so using the past tense is rather silly. He might be coerced by someone.
A war would take place in the future, but for now, things were peaceful. Dagrel must have had some reason to harbor dreams of territorial expansion. He did not seem like that much of a villain when I met him at Walpurgis. Maybe I would chat with Dagra and his brothers to see what I could find out. If there was some kind of problem, I would be happy to talk about it. That would beat fighting a war over it any day. Right. I'll investigate that on my end, I assured Luminus.
I will hold you to that. I have no interest in fighting a feudal war, after all.
So we decided to examine the Dagrel issue later. It would be awful if he wound up working with the Empire, so Luminus would keep a close eye on him. Louis and Gunther nodded their approval, and I felt the task was safe in their hands. I moved to the next problem. That leaves Guy to discuss.
I'd like to talk about that if I could.
There was no point complaining to Guy about what he would do in the future, but I still had concerns. It seemed best to explain matters to him as well. How deep I should go with him, of course, was another thorny issue. But Veldora suddenly jumped in.
Guy is an arbitrator. He's nothing to me right now. But long, long ago, I have a vague hunch that he might have annihilated me. Or something to that effect. Or not at all, even. It hardly counts if nobody remembers it, right?
I was not sure where to begin with this confession. What did he mean, Guy was an arbitrator? And they fought at some point in the past and Veldora got annihilated? That was news to me. Also, having it not count because you do not remember it sounded like a dumb excuse even for a young child. But I did not want to dogpile on him, so I kept quiet.
Guy has his wiser side, I see.
Leon paused a moment.
An arbitrator? Guy is certainly not allied with humankind, but he is not hostile to them either. If he killed Chronoa in the future, it is easy to surmise that Chronoa was little more than her will of destruction at that point, and Guy saw her as a threat to the world's continued existence.
So what is this arbitrator stuff about? It seemed like I was the only one out of the loop.
An arbitrator is part of a separate system from heroes and demon lords. Their mission is to prevent the destruction of the world. It is said they speak for Veldanava himself, the creator and Star King dragon.
Indeed. The Star King, my elder brother, created this world, and he set up this system so nobody would go around ripping it apart.
Aha. And so Veldora was annihilated after trying to do just that. Now it made sense. It proved that the true dragon definitely did wake back up at that point in the future. I was not so sure Veldora had lost his memory of it, but I was better off not bringing it up. I drew the conclusion aloud. So that's how it is. In that case, I don't think Guy's likely to target Chloe right now. Chloe nodded. Uh-huh. I mean, I remember Chronoa going crazy and, well, I don't have any personal thing against the Demon Lord Guy, so... Hinata and Chloe seemed convinced, smiling as they chatted about it. As long as nobody went berserk, it seemed like we could avoid conflict with Guy. Well, in that case, should we let Leon discuss this with Guy? I asked.
Right. My and Chloe's futures are riding on this, after all.
Chloe chided him at once, with a face too innocent for how scary she could be.
Hang on, Leon. You're not involved in this.
I felt kind of bad for him. Leon was this really handsome, cool-looking guy, but his entire relationship with Shizu showed how often he got cast as the villain. Between his tongue-tied ways and his knack for painting himself in a bad light, Maybe he was just really misunderstood. In short, he was like Masayuki, except the exact opposite. Chloe treated him like a friendly neighborhood boy, a big brother-like figure. Nothing romantic, though. Leon had always been popular with women, and perhaps because of that, Chloe never picked up on the love he had for her. Thinking about it, I had to pity him. For once in my life, I decided to try showing him a little more kindness. So I was ready to call this summit a success. Both Demon Lords had pledged to support me. We only needed to stay alert for the Empire, and beyond that, each of us would figure out the next moves to make. But right when I was about to adjourn, a desperate voice rang out in the hall. Please, just one moment. He has guests. They're in the middle of an important meeting.
Oh? I'm impressed that you spotted me barging in. But since I'm here and all, mind if I say my hellos?
There was a clamor down the hall. That voice, that pompousness, it had to be Guy, the strongest of all Demon Lords. He had made it this far in without me noticing, and only a very small number of people could do that.
Report. No signs of hostility.
Or had Raphael noticed all along? Now was not the time to debate that. I hurriedly left my seat, but before I could lift a finger, Diablo sneered and walked over to the door.
Yo.
Go away.
He concluded the short exchange by slamming the door in Guy's face. The rest of us froze on the spot.
Oh, come now, Diablo. I'll have none of that.
Guy opened the door again, angry now.
You are meddling in a vital summit. It has only been a day and our preparations are not yet complete. We would like to take our time discussing matters with you, so please do not come until you are invited.
Diablo was trying to be polite, but he was acting awfully sure of himself in front of Guy. Did they know each other, maybe? I was not the only one wondering, judging by Luminus's and Leon's surprised looks.
Unbelievable. Not surrendering a single step to Guy, although I would expect nothing less from Noir.
What? Noir? Why is someone so lofty in the service of Rimuru?
The words I was picking up did not portend good things for my future. Diablo was someone lofty. His head was in the clouds, yeah, but what was this Noir stuff? As I sat there confused, things grew even more chaotic. Benimaru rushed in first.
Sir Rimuru, are you all right? I just heard from my sister that...
So I was right behind him.
My lord, I felt the presence of the red.
Behind them came Carrera, and almost at the same time, Ultima came barreling in as well. Carrera looked ready for trouble. Oh, is this a war? Because if it is, I'm ready to fight. It was nuts. At this point, I might as well have allowed Guy inside instead of booting him. I had no intention of inviting him anyway. I would have to discuss this with Diablo later, but first I needed to restore order. Everyone calm down, and you step back too, Diablo. That finally settled everyone a little. Once things were quiet, I continued. I hadn't planned this, but Guy, I actually have something to discuss with you too. If you're here and all, I might as well have you join the summit. You okay with that?
Sure. Perfect, even. I need to talk to you, too.
I had wanted Leon to handle him, but I guess we had a change of plans. With Guy's permission in hand, I had to chase everybody else out. I called after them. Okay, there's nothing to worry about, all right? I'll call you guys if something comes up, so get back to work for me. Everyone looked amply relieved. I heard some unwelcome grumbling, such as one of the demons muttering that the red had done it again and another complaining that they thought they could start bashing some heads. But overall, things were under control. The rest of the rabble returned to their posts. Shuna left to prepare tea for those of us still in the reception hall. As she did, Leon spoke first.
Now what is the meaning of this? Why is Joan here, of all people?
Huh?
I have a question as well. I presume the other one was Violet, but were my eyes playing tricks on me? I heard she was rather gloomy and spiteful, so I cannot be entirely certain.
Huh? Jean? Violet? What were these people talking about? Oh, wait, I asked aloud. Did you mean Carrera and Ultima? Diablo over there invited them, but they're actually a lot more talented than I thought. I was trying to explain things, but Leon and Luminus did not let me finish.
Carrera and Ultima? Did you give those two names? It's
simply unbelievable. So Diablo was not enough for you. You have brought even more primals under your wing?
Leon was on his feet and shouting. Luminus looked completely out of sorts. Both of them fixed me with piercing glares.
Yeah, isn't it crazy? That's partly why I'm here, so I can grill him about what he's up to.
Even Guy was spouting nonsense at me. And I mean, what was I supposed to say? As I floundered for a response, Shuna brought in tea on a cart. We all fell silent, not wanting to get in her way. A pleasant aroma filled the chamber, helping us regain our calm. With my mind clearer, I tried considering what everyone was saying. The key word was primal, as stated by Luminus. And that meant...
Understood. It is one standard for describing demons.
Right. I remembered having that explained to me. They were defined as the first demons and all that. Wait, the first demons? I turned to Diablo. You aren't one of the first demons or something, are you?
Well, yes. I am a leader of one of the 7 bands of demons, among the firstborn into this world.
Oh man, I had no idea the demon I summoned when I transformed into a demon lord was something this huge. I knew he was super powerful, but this was even crazier than I thought.
You did not know that?
Incredible. I always thought you had a screw loose, but not to this extent.
Leon and Luminus stared holes through me. But what could I say? If Diablo answered a summon as offhand as mine was, there was no way he could have been anyone that amazing. Raphael seemed silent too. I think I even stunned it. But Diablo's true identity was not the real shocker. Raphael seemed surprised that I had not known about it myself. I suppose Raphael thought I already understood the Primal Demons. But hang on. I felt like Elmesia, the heavenly emperor of Thalion, had mentioned something about primals as well. So that was why she warned me so much about them. She had picked up on who Diablo was, and I would have too if I had paid a little more attention. Hey, this happens, you know? You get an idea in your head and you stick with it. I was not going to investigate every little factoid I knew or bring it up with everybody I met. As far as Raphael was concerned, there was no special need to tell me. What a pitfall. Having a dictionary on hand would not help if you never used it. Raphael had been giving me a lot of advice lately, but not even it could understand what I did and did not know. No matter how brilliant my partner was, it meant nothing if I did not use him correctly. I sure learned my lesson about that today, again. Ignoring my surprise, Diablo began regaling the audience with the story of how he met me. Apparently, this went all the way back to my encounter with Shizu. She and Diablo knew each other, it turned out, and Diablo happened to be visiting this land when he sensed Shizu in her final moments. The idea that Diablo had been aware of me since then was astounding, although I still had no idea what his motivations were.
The lower demons in my family accused me of fleeing my post in order to serve Sir Rimuru, an accusation that wounds me deeply. But I took my time. I waited for just the right opportunity, and in the end I successfully answered Sir Rimuru's call.
Diablo flashed a contented smile. So him coming to that summon was not a fluke after all. It was inevitable because he had planned it that way. I could feel a headache coming on from the shock. And in another wild revelation, Diablo admitted he had been so jealous of Beretta that he tried to purge him without alerting me. However, since I had created Beretta's body, he deemed it too much of a waste to damage it. Beretta had apparently scolded him, warning that the body was handmade by Sir Rimuru, and that if Diablo laid a finger on it, I would be quite displeased. Truly, this was exhausting me. What a ridiculously long story. Someone please stop him, I wanted to beg, but Diablo was talking a mile a minute and nobody could get a word in edgewise, so I finally spoke up. Diablo, that's enough, all right? We need to continue the summit. Guy backed me up.
Satisfied now? Enough about you, Diablo. That bum Dino's here too, isn't he? Can you call him over for me?
That was finally enough to shut Diablo up.
I will bring Sir Dino over at once.
Shuna bowed and seized her chance at long last to leave. Or escape, I thought, my heart about ready to give out. Diablo looked eager to continue.
But I was getting to the good part.
Everyone ignored him. If we let him prattle on, there was no telling what he would say next. Keeping him quiet right now would do wonders for my blood pressure. Somewhere in the middle of all this, Guy had sat down in a chair. Leon's attendants had brought a seat over from the adjacent waiting area for him.
Ah, how thoughtful of you.
Arlos and Claude nodded their appreciation behind Leon. They must have known Guy from before. Otherwise, I was sure they would be too afraid to move at all. I should have arranged something for Guy, but my brain was running on empty. Having those 2 knights around was a godsend. Besides, the secretary who should have been backing me up was too busy talking his head off, and Xian was frozen by my side in a classic not my problem power move. Sorry to make you handle that, I said to the 2 knights. Arlos answered first, cheerful and steady. No need to worry about it. Claude followed with the same calm courtesy. We understand your situation, Lord Rimuru. You're busy trying to shoo people away from this chamber, aren't you? Allow us to handle this much for you. Arlos and Claude were really nice. Diablo and Xian could learn a lot from them. I glanced back at Diablo and Xian. Guys, can you try to be as considerate as those 2 over there, please? Diablo gave a low laugh.
Haha, I had perhaps grown a little too impassioned.
Diablo seemed ready to pin the blame on Guy's unexpected appearance. But yeah, maybe this was just an unlucky break for him. Normally, he would never overlook something like that.
Duly noted, sir.
Xian, on the other hand, was the ever-obedient student. Great at saying yes, teacher, but not at much else. I could only pray the knowledge would stick. So Guy sat down, acting as pompous as ever. As he did, Shuna returned with Dino, and Ramirez too for some reason. Before long, the summit was back in session. Our first topic was the Primal Demons.
So, Dino, you got an excuse for us?
Dino replied so naturally it only made Guy angrier. Excuse? For what?
Don't give me that crap, you. Why didn't you stop him from naming the 3 of them?
Yeah. That was important, right? By him, I supposed Guy meant me. But look, if I had known these 3 were such bad news, I would have never even thought about naming them, okay? It was too late now, but I wished I had at least gotten some warning.
Look, why in the name of all that's unholy do you think I sent you here in the first place?
Dino guessed, sightseeing?
No, this is a reconnaissance detail. Reconnaissance, you hear me?
Watching this exchange, I realized even Guy had his own struggles. I had a hunch about this, but it turned out Dino really was a spy, although I wished Guy did not have to say so right in front of him.
And you, don't act like you're not involved in this.
Oh, and now Guy was taking it out on me. Great. It did not seem fair to be yelled at by the person spying on me, but I supposed I was the cause of this, so to speak. I wanted to plead my case, but a reflexive reaction was not a smart move. This was Guy, after all. Inviting his ire upon me was never wise.
Why get so worked up over such trifles, Guy? He's got quite a long history of naming people willy-nilly, you know.
Veldora, for a change, actually stepped up to defend me. I gave him a subliminal attaboy.
Silence, you child. The adults are talking.
Right.
A few choice words from Luminus shut him up. He could dish it out, but he sure could not take it, and now the whole room was aware of that. Still, at least his contribution pointed Guy's ire away from me for a moment. I seized the opportunity to launch an offensive of my own. Okay, so Dino came here to keep tabs on me then. I'll refrain from complaining about that for now, but it's true that Dino is at fault for not stopping me, and the person who trusted him enough to send him on that mission has some responsibility as a supervisor, doesn't he? Don't you think so, Guy? Spreading the responsibility in so many words. I was not about to shoulder all the blame here, so I tried to hand some of it back to Dino and Guy. Dino was clearly at fault, so all that remained was to rope Guy in too. Dino immediately jumped on my plan. He's right, Guy. Besides, I told you, I can't watch over him. I can't believe you actually thought about making me do work.
I swear, you people.
Guy was frustrated. I took pains not to rile him further, feeling around for a landing point. Dino kept going. Besides, I never even had any time to stop him. You know, when I saw Rimuru bringing the primals over, I was so surprised that I couldn't even speak. I mean, 3 of them. Diablo was always kind of a weirdo, so I could understand him. But can you even imagine Testarossa working for someone? Nobody could.
True enough.
Oops. Dino was trying to wriggle out of this, and Guy was about to accept it. I did not like how this was going. I tried to keep my tone bright as I laid out my defense. Listen, guys. Diablo brought them over because he said they would be useful, and I believed him, all right? I never thought they were these super powerful beings, and they were perfectly happy serving me. They're under Diablo's direct control, so he is responsible for them. And it will be on me as well if something happens. But it's only natural to trust in your employees, isn't it? He was the one who started this, so I thought he deserved that much. I turned my eyes toward him, all but begging him to take on Guy's anger for me. For reasons only he knew, he eagerly nodded.
Your trust in me is encouraging like nothing else. I must be more diligent than ever to live up to your expectations.
Guy took one look at Diablo's gleaming smile and fell silent. He leaned back in his seat, clearly fatigued.
So this is Diablo's fault?
Well, not his fault exactly. Dino faltered too. We're kind of victims here too, you know? Only Diablo retained his sparkling pride, looking as ebullient as ever.
Well, this guy has been a nutcase for ages now, so I'm not going to whine about that at this point. And Dino, if you can't stop Rimuru, well, circumstances being what they were, I understand that.
Whoa, this was getting way out of control.
But you, Rimuru.
Oh, here we go. Why was I taking the heat? I answered with forced composure. What about me? I could not lose my cool. I had to be bold with Guy and act like I had done nothing wrong. To keep him from picking up on my indecision, I had Raphael take primary control of my body. No matter how much I panicked inside, I would remain calm and collected on the surface.
Don't give me that.
Guy then proceeded to angrily lecture me. Thanks to me, the balance of the world had collapsed, blah blah blah. Now nobody knew how the world situation would unfold, blah blah blah. Even giving Raphael bodily control did not help much. Guy was a lot more calculating than I thought.
And what's more, thanks to you, Maziri's mission was a big failure too. I'm gonna hold you at fault for that, you hear me?
I was not sure how I was at fault for something I was not aware of. But if Guy wanted to pin the blame on me, then so be it. I just nodded, said, "All right," and let it go. The lecture was over, but Guy still was not done talking. Apparently, Guy made a deliberate habit of triggering calamities at regular intervals, so the whole of humanity considered him an enemy. His goal was to stoke a unified fear against an all-powerful foe, keeping humankind from wasting its time with needless internal power struggles. When Granville was in power, Guy took no action, refraining from any major moves. But now that Granville had attempted an all-out attack on Luminus, the balance of power was totally out of whack. Thus, Guy had ordered Maziri to reunite humankind with an event that would terrorize everyone at once. Her idea was to kill off the Council and all its members, reminding the leaders of the Western nations just how fearsome a demon lord could be. That, she reasoned, would help unite all the leaders peacefully.
So Maziri attacked the Council, and who did she find there but Blanc, or Testarossa now, I suppose? I'm so used to her old title that I can't help but keep using it. But regardless, Maziri avoided a confrontation with Testarossa, and so her plan was foiled. That's all well and good. The problem is what comes after that. As long as we can't rule over those cunning humans with fear, they're doubtlessly gonna start squabbling among themselves. And with the Rozos a thing of the past, history tells us that the power struggle is only gonna get more intense. What do you think will happen if the Eastern Empire makes a move while the Western nations are carrying on with that nonsense? They'll lose big is what. And it's your fault, Rimuru, so tell me what you're gonna do about it.
Well, I did not expect that. Guy was trying to prevent the Western nations from tearing themselves apart? He never seemed to take much interest in the human race, but maybe he was trying to keep doomsday from happening at least. I guess that was his job as an arbitrator. He was not a friend to humankind, and his methods could get pretty violent, but in a way I could understand his motives. Now I had to question my plans for the Western nations. I did not even realize Testarossa and Maziri had made contact with each other, but I could not reveal that now. All I really wanted to do was make humanity recognize us and build friendly relations with them, but as I pondered how to answer him, Diablo stepped up in my place. Ignoring the scowl this drew from Guy, he spoke.
What will he do, you ask? All Sir Rimuru desires is making his ideals reality.
I was anxious about what he might say, but it was not like I had any concrete ideas. I doubted idealistic arguments would work on Guy, so I counted on Diablo and his supreme confidence to save the day. I guessed he disappointed me, huh? He went with the whole lofty ideals argument I had already dismissed.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, it's very simple, Guy. I am merely saying there's no point in doing something as bland and uninteresting as terrorizing people. Certainly they will be more submissive to you, but it is not making the most thorough use of their abilities. Terror, you see, is an emotion that dissipates over time. No matter how much tragedy you engineer, it is doomed to fade into oblivion. Once it does, all that remains is bitterness.
Continue.
Bitterness, over time, turns into hatred. It drives people to take revenge upon their abusers. Humanity, lacking in intelligence, as clever as they may be, fails to notice exactly how absolute the difference in power is between them and us. If they are agitated by monsters or the like, they will quickly dirty their hands with some quite foolish behavior.
Right, and that's why I purge them. Because I'm not willing to let them get their hands dirty.
And I tell you, it is a pointless errand. The inherent foolishness of man causes their memories to fade. One generation gives way to the next so quickly. There is nothing to be done about that. However,
Diablo paused for a moment, eyeing Guy with a serious look.
instead of letting the Rozos corner the market, if you redistribute the wealth, you can have nations rebuild their relationships while retaining some amount of fairness. That in turn creates new economic principles.
And then?
You leave these new principles, these new choices, and you delude them into thinking they've chosen their own future. That way, the foolish humans will believe they've created it for themselves. This system is something that, unlike human memory, never fades. It allows you to rule the human world semi-permanently. Sir Rimuru is the one managing that, and I see it as my personal job.
Wow, Diablo was talking sense. Basically, if people build it up themselves, they will treat it better? Also, was that really what I had in mind? I felt like I might have said something along those lines, but I did not think it was anything quite so grandiose. That, and he was talking based on the foregone conclusion that it would work, which was kind of scary.
I see. So if you hold on to the economy and guarantee their safety for nothing in return...
Guy nodded, seemingly re-evaluating Diablo.
But of course, a world where the masses are left satisfied, not the classes. The supply and demand chains that result will come to create new possibilities as well. And that, Guy, is what Sir Rimuru hopes for.
He was not wrong, I suppose. What I really looked forward to was seeing how culture would advance and evolve. I wanted to see more mass media for everyone to enjoy. Movies, music, manga, novels. Creating that kind of art required a foundation that afforded people enough free time in life. I wanted to give them a chance to enjoy prosperity so they could discover new, previously unknown talents within themselves. I will freely admit I did not think too much beyond that.
So once they learn how nice peace can be, they'll be afraid of losing it?
Precisely. In a word, it is the concept of gratitude. People appreciate Sir Rimuru for protecting the peace, and so they contribute to preserving that peace worldwide. I believe that is far more efficient than the terror-driven rule you picture.
Before I knew it, the two of them seemed to fully understand each other. Luminus and Leon, listening to Diablo's blueprint for the future as well as their attendants, were all looking at me with bemused wonder on their faces. Under that kind of pressure, there was absolutely no way I could tell anyone that I had not been thinking anything like that at all.
But if we're going to do that, it'll take a long-term perspective and a lot of intricate calculations, won't it? You have to manage it, or I can easily see there being too many humans around to deal with. They'll get all carried away. You want me to go through all that trouble?
Come on, Guy. It was not like caring for a pet. You would not wake up one day and find that your hamster had a dozen babies or something.
And you think Sir Rimuru is incapable of seeing into the future that far? Perhaps it would be too difficult to manage for you, but for Sir Rimuru it is something he could handle in his spare time. I think it is safe to say there is no need for concern.
Whoa. Why was Diablo assuming I would manage this? I mean, I was pretty sure he and I had talked about how running the world from behind the scenes was a nice Demon Lord-like way to go about things. But if you said that in front of Guy and the other Demon Lords, they would meddle with me, wouldn't they? I was unnerved, but apparently I should not have been. In fact, Guy was smiling at me.
You think, huh? Well, okay, I'll leave all that to you. I really doubt it's gonna go as well as you describe, but it's no skin off my nose if you fail. Because if you do fail, I'll just step up and start culling those fools. So let's see you take responsibility for this, alright?
Surprisingly enough, Guy was smiling as he said it. And if that was what it had come to, I would just have to accept it. If I had said all right a moment ago, I could not really say no way now without warning. I gave Guy my answer. I think Diablo was exaggerating things a little, but he's not wrong, generally speaking. Sure, it's a bit idealistic, but I feel like it would be nice if things worked out like that. And regardless of what you have to say about it, I'm going to try to engineer world peace my own way. That was my promise. And so, without really understanding what was going on, I was officially appointed by the Octagram to manage the Western nations.
Route confirmed. The next episode and full playlist are ready.
Then don't stop here. Keep watching in story order and subscribe before the next part drops.